episode of the Crypto Gaming Institute podcast. My name's Ben, your host, and today we have the honor of speaking with the Netvrk CEO, Mr. Dan Kennedy. What's up, man? How you doing today?
Hey, thank you for that intro. Glad to be on the show and honored to be discussing crypto gaming with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly, you guys are taking on taking a pretty big swing at the industry, in a good way, really exciting way. So excited to jump into that. Would love to really dive into your history first and understand what your story is.
Yeah, so my experience with crypto started with Bitcoin when it was around 140 bucks, and yeah, have known that crypto is the future since then. And my background is more in the real estate and finance field, with also some experience in the entertainment industries. So, bringing a lot of that into what we're building at Netvrk, as far as being a full-fledged metaverse, that involves virtual land, involves concerts and entertainment, and we really set out to create a full-scoped metaverse that is utilitarian. It offers people things that they actually want to do inside of the metaverse, and yeah, we've structured it in such a way where if people want to do things relating to business or education or gaming, they have all these options. So we've really sought out and believe we've created a full-fledged metaverse, that appeals to the you know to the largest section of users.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I definitely want to dig into the metaverse side, but curious a little more about how you kind of came to the space. How did you really learn about crypto in the first place? And then once you kind of understood what it was and started to dig into it, how did you then move over into the metaverse crypto gaming side?
Yeah, so again, got involved early on in Bitcoin, and obviously the space has evolved a lot, right? Um, so I guess that transition basically went from being a speculative space, right? A lot of people looking at the crypto space as speculative investments, to actual utility-driven cryptocurrency projects. And blockchain gaming is sort of it's a relatively new concept, something that's not existed for a long time. So I find that to be one of the most exciting spaces. Um, and when you're talking about metaverses, right, it's something that's so new that it really is something that we're defining. So that's one of the things that makes it the most exciting things to me, is that it's something new that has not been done before, and we're establishing the space as we develop it.
So maybe for the folks that aren't totally up to speed on what you guys are doing, maybe you could kind of give us just at a high level, like exactly what Netvrk is and what solutions you're really bringing to the space.
100%, yeah. So Netvrk, we're a full scope metaverse. We're built on Unreal Engine, and we're focused on not only business but education, gaming, and socializing. So everybody's familiar with Decentraland and Sandbox, which are pretty, they're pretty specific in what they do. Mainly very light gaming and very light socializing. But we set out to create something that appeals to a broader group of people and has the features and utility that people want. So we've heavily studied the users of Sandbox and Decentraland, listened to their feedback about what they actually want in a metaverse, and created a metaverse that is architected in such a way that it allows all these great features. And one of those important points for us was to be multi-chain. So we've seen all these different metaverse projects that are running on one blockchain, right? And it's like, how can you call yourself a metaverse if you're only running on one blockchain, right? So we're supporting 8 major blockchains, meaning that inside the metaverse, users, projects, companies can utilize any of these 8 major blockchains. Have We have full integration with many of these projects where you could actually use their platforms directly from the metaverse. Um, so we've really sought out to create something that, not only makes sense from a technical level, but it's something that we'd want to use and that we know people would want to use as well.
So it's interesting just kind of looking at it from kind of the outside here, but it seems like you have a very big focus on VR and more of like a social VR uh, approach to it. So what was your kind of thought process of how you decided to go for the VR play, and what was that inspired by, really?
Right. So while we do support VR, it's not our main focus. We will be releasing an updated white paper and roadmap, which will, shed some more light onto this. But basically, with our goal being to address the largest audience possible, we are PC accessible with upcoming mobile support, and we do have VR headset support, but it's not the primary focus, right? So one of the problems with VR is that it's very cumbersome to wear a headset, especially for long periods of time. So nobody really wants to be in the metaverse for an extended amount of time using a VR headset. What we believe is the way forward is for users to be able to access the metaverse using their PCs and their phones. And then there's certain things that VR does really well. And for those things, people want to use their VR headsets, right? Um, so, like navigating the metaverse, certain functions in the metaverse, you probably don't want to use a VR headset, but there's probably certain experiences where you do want to use a VR headset. So, VR is just part of our focus alongside AR. In the metaverse itself, it's a tool within a big tool set.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So this is actually something where the next question kind of comes from a spot where I think there are a lot of different answers to it, and I kind of have like the broadest scope of what it is. But what would you actually say is like the definition of metaverse? Like, what does that even actually mean at just the highest level?
Yeah, good question, right? So you ask 100 different people that same question, you'll get 100 different answers, right? And it's hard to say that any one answer is wrong because it's such a new thing. And I think if you go back, you look at the book like Snow Crash, Ready Player One, then you have the movie adaptions, right? So that kind of gives us like an idea. But I still think we're so early in this that it's just like NFTs, right? With NFTs, you have graphical NFTs, which is what everybody's focused on now. But in a couple of years, you're just going to have NFTs in every area of our life where it's, you know, you're buying products, they're linked to NFTs. You're buying a car, it's linked to an NFT. So we're so early in this, it's really hard for us to get perspective, right? And we're kind of lost in in the forest, not seeing the trees. So, um, the metaverse for Netvrk at least is uh, where people can use different features to better their lives, right? And I think that's important to remember that everything is being built for the betterment of humankind, basically. And sounds a little bit corny, but yeah, I mean, there's no point in building something that people won't use. So especially with our metaverse, we're very utility driven, and anything that you can do to make your life better, that's why we're focused on education, business, and not just gaming and socializing, right? um, and there's certain things like you have the coronavirus, which has really changed the way a lot of people live. A lot of people have to conduct business or learn via their school. Things will meet, and that's not the ideal way. Uh, you know, a lot of people don't feel that's the best way to learn or to conduct business. So imagine doing the same thing, but in a virtual environment where you have access to powerful tools. Imagine learning about physics in this virtual world, in this metaverse, where you could actually see the demonstrations in a very realistic manner and even take part in it, right? And then you get into gamified learning and rewarding students. And I'm not just talking about like grade school students. You have college level students, postgraduate studies, and yeah, the sky is the limit. Basically, it's just about making tools that people want to use and can benefit from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I actually kind of take the approach that, or the viewpoint that there are there are not multiple metaverses, but there is one metaverse with multiple different sections of it, or places in it. Because if you think about it, like, one perspective is the entire internet is the metaverse, and each different place is just a new virtual space within it, and each different device is just a portal into it. And so each different group that's building their own space within the greater metaverse, they're kind of like trying to carve out land share. Does that kind of compete with your viewpoint on it? Or like, how do you kind of see that perspective working with your own?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people have different definitions of it. Again, some people say in order to be classified as a metaverse, it has to be persistent, always in existence, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But yeah, I mean, on the flip side, you have a lot of projects calling themselves metaverses where they're not really metaverses, right? So you see like a lot of projects trying to classify themselves as metaverses without really meeting even, the minimal criteria. So yeah, I think it's definitely important to be careful and not classify everything as a metaverse. Um, the internet is definitely like part of that tech foundation for the metaverse, but that's the thing. I think we're at a confluence of technology where you have internet, you have blockchain, and you have graphical systems like Unreal Engine, and these all these technologies have reached a point where it's now possible to have a true metaverse. So in keeping everything in the view of technologies that are used as a foundation for the metaverse, I think is the right way to think about it.
That's interesting. So, when it comes to what you
Yeah.
guys are doing at Network, are you trying to be the metaverse, like, where to the point where, like, the what Facebook is building or what Microsoft is building, like, you're out competing them and they like go away, and then all their folks come into the Network metaverse? Or like, what's the vision there and the goal for what you're trying to create?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook is trying to create a metaverse, but from what we've seen, the Facebook's metaverse is more about co-working spaces. And that's how they've received a lot of criticism. People, kind of rolled their eyes when they heard about is creating a metaverse, and not only that, they've changed their names to Meta. So, it's like obviously they've been criticized for not respecting people's privacy and actually selling people's personal information. So, then you start thinking about like the Oculus headset. I know a lot of people did push back. They don't want a company that has had that kind of track record, basically, having even more access to information via the metaverse. So, our goal is to be the independent metaverse, and creating this decentralized independent metaverse. We offer a product of value that people, not only can use all these great features we're building, but they know that they're doing so in a, safe environment and a fair environment.
So is it more of, you kind of want to create like the platform that in the world that everybody lives in? And then, like, how are you kind of seeing that in relation to like different
Yeah.
games that are already built? Like, are you going to connect to them? How does that all going to play out?
So we view ourselves as the YouTube of the metaverse. It's not only about, having our private world, our members only club, right? It's about giving people the tools to create their own content and assets for the metaverse, and then being able to monetize it. So, um, not only is there like our initial iteration of the metaverse, there's also the ability to create your own private metaverse. So, we're working with a lot of big companies, a lot of real world companies, brands in different fields, in creating their metaverse, which can then, be accessed from our Genesis Islands metaverse, which we view as the lobby. So you have all these different metaverses that we're enabling, and the whole the whole vision is giving people the tools to create content for the metaverse, because that's one of the biggest issues is a lack of content in the metaverse. Um, so yeah, what good is a metaverse that lacks content, right? Um, So yeah, we're addressing a few different things: creating content for the metaverse, incentivizing people by letting them monetize their content in the metaverse, and then also creating solutions for real world companies, real world brands, influencers, celebrities, to where they can create their own private metaverse, which is accessible through our I guess, lobby, right? So it's kind of like if you think about Google, they're basically connecting all these different websites in one space where you can access them. So I guess in that sense, we are doing the same thing for the metaverse. We're creating an index, a visual index for all these different metaverses.
That's cool. So people will basically hop in through Network and then go to all the different worlds that you're supporting, that you've helped to build. That's really interesting. So are you seeing the folks that are using Network the most, like your power users that are really driving what y'all are doing, be bigger brands that you're working with, or more like indie game studios that want to build with y'all, or like who's really using the product the most right now?
I mean, it's both. So we believe in approaching something from multiple sides. So we're not just targeting the big brands. We're not just working with big brands. We're also working with entrepreneurs, the small guy, small businesses. And by coming at it from both sides, eventually you're going to reach the middle, right? So we think it's very important, to cater to both the individual user, small businesses, large businesses, the established brands, and also up and coming brands. Um, yeah, and by having the right tools, both types of clients, both types of users, will adopt, what we're building and enter the metaverse.
Cool. Really interesting. So I kind of want to scope out a little bit. I know we don't have too much time on the calendar today, so I want to keep it relatively concise. But just as kind of your view of like where the metaverse is heading right now, from where we stand. Clearly, we're early, and everybody that's both you and I and everybody listening right now, whether it be right now on the live stream or within 2022 and probably even into 2023, we're still super early, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
like, how early are we? How would you quantify that? And at what point will we not be early?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple case of, yeah, that's a very interesting question, right? So, I mean, we're early. We're not like 2014 early, but we're in 2022. We're still early. I think like the next 2-3 years will be very pivotal, and we'll start seeing like mass adoption with companies, real world companies, and basically like with Facebook, over a couple of years, you saw to where it gained adoption to where your neighbors were on Facebook, right? Um, so yeah, once you see, once like one out of every 10 persons is on the metaverse, I think we'll say, we're getting there. But until it's like maybe 5 out of 10 people, then we could start saying, we've reached mass adoption.
And when do you think that's really going to happen from a chronological perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea, but if I had to guess, probably 2025, maybe.
So we have a good 3 years to really carve out and decide who we're going to be in this new world, really.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know when that happens, but it really goes back to the crypto space, and we both know how much that space has grown in the last couple of years. So you're talking about rising market caps, rising segments of the financial market. So it's basically you know companies and brands, they ignore this space at their peril. So yeah, basically it's going to be a race for all these companies and people to come into the metaverse, and those that do so early will probably be happy they came in the space early.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you first realized the opportunity of the metaverse, clearly you've gone the builder path. You wanted to create something of value. How did you decide that you wanted to be a builder versus trying to be an investor or a gamer or a player or building more of a community? Like, how did you decide you wanted to come in and build what's essentially like software in a company and a brand?
So what is your question specifically?
Yeah, like how did you make the decision of more entering, like approaching this from building a platform and software as opposed to more being an investor or being a gamer or building like a community? Like, why the software side of it being your approach?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to really answer that, but basically, I think it's again, it's utility driven, and we're wanting to create something that people want to utilize. And um, there is a lot of demand for this product. Um, so we set out to create it in the best way possible. Um, but yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Well, maybe I should ask in a different way. Like, for people I feel like a lot of people recognize that this is an up and coming thing. The metaverse is happening. We're still early, and people are trying to figure out how to still participate in this thing because they're still trying to understand what it is. They realize that they want to be early on, but they're still trying to figure out how to even play in it in some way. So like some people are going to go become gamers and they're going to want to try to go more the play to earn route. Some people are going to try to build guilds. Some people are going to try to, like me, build a podcast and do other cool things. But you kind of took the approach of more the entrepreneurial startup method within this space. So like why the entrepreneurial side of it? What was that big draw for you?
Um, yeah, so you mean personally, or you mean network as a whole?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, personally involved in creating things. So it's not something that really was a question in my mind, right? But yeah, always been fascinated by the blockchain space. Recognize that it's a big opportunity technologically, and the metaverse. Has always been something where something since reading Snow Crash has really been an amazing concept. So I guess it's been something that's been building in my mind for many years.
Yeah, cool, cool. And so just kind of to start wrapping up here, um, thinking about like what the metaverse is gonna look like. Like what is this thing really gonna look like in the next, 2, 5, 10, 20 years? I've heard so many different answers. And
Yeah, I know.
probably the only common thread is that people are saying it's gonna be very weird. It's gonna be totally, totally weird and way different than we're thinking. What's your perspective on what it's actually gonna look like and feel like?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, you're gonna probably have some aspects or some projects that are, you know, fulfill that niche, but we're talking about like everyday things that we're doing, right? Like learning at school, pursuing education, conducting business. So, um, yeah, I think people get a little bit carried away with like the futuristic aspect of it. Because remember, we're human beings, and this is basically a tool. So if it doesn't really make sense, it's probably not going to be done. Um, so yeah, I think it's important to keep perspective. Um, but yeah, we may have like really way out technology coming up that is kind of weird, but yeah, who knows? I think maybe we're talking about like Elon Musk's Neuralink or something like way out like that, right?
I'm
Um,
not. I'm
yeah,
not even sure. I really have no idea. I'm as interested as everybody else.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there'll definitely be cool things. I don't know if they'd be classified as weird, but yeah, at least at Network, we're just focused on utilitarian things that people actually want to do, things that bring benefit to people. Um, so yeah,
Cool. And so for the folks that you're working with and just the perspective that you have, um, who's going to crush it? Like, what big brands are going to crush it? I don't need names, but like the ones like how are they thinking about it that you're seeing like, oh, they're just going to kill it when they get this dialed in.
yeah. I mean, I can't name names because we're under NDA, but um, generally, it's the companies that are led by people or have people working for them that are very open-minded. It's the people that don't really understand, and we saw this with the internet. There were some companies that are like, oh, we don't need the internet. And then there was the companies that are like, yeah, this is a good tool for us to use. So yeah, again, people that are open-minded and early adopters will benefit. So yeah, that said, there are certain companies that are ahead of the curve, but yeah, I guess it's like that with every technological innovation.
Absolutely. Any parting words for us here? Just gonna I want to be very respectful of your time, so just want to wrap up here.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was great being on here. Thank you for having me, and look forward to talking about it again. There's so much to talk to in relation to the metaverse. So many different areas, right? And because we're super early, if we talked, in a conversation about a year from now, it'll probably be much more different than what we're discussing today. So, yeah, really looking forward to the evolution and adoption, and yeah, can't wait.
Absolutely. You're welcome on anytime. But appreciate you and
Thank you, Ben.
everybody watching and listening. Thank you very much, and I'll see